Did you know that there is a city in the United States where more than half of the population lives below the poverty line? That's right. In the richest country in the world, there is a city where almost half of the population lives in poverty. A city with no hospital, no school, tin houses, dirt roads, and children growing up amid dust and silence, which seems to have been forgotten by the map. There, the American dream never arrived. Or if it did, it stopped at the gate and turned back. Today on Bello Mundo, you will learn about Escobares, the poorest city in the United States. Number 1. Location and general information. Escobares is so small that many people don't even know it exists. It is located in the southernmost part of the United States, in Texas, right on the border with Mexico. On one side of the river is Escobares. On the other is Miguel Alemán, a Mexican city that borders Texas. Between the two, the only barrier is the Rio Grande, or Rio Bravo, as the Mexicans call it. To be honest, Escobares is more reminiscent of a poor Mexican village than any wealthy American city. It is living proof that the American dream is not for everyone. The city has just over 2,500 residents. It is so small that sometimes it doesn't even appear in official statistics. The neighboring city is Roma, and when I say neighboring, I mean really close. There are streets in Escobares that depend on garbage collection from there, and there is nothing glamorous about it. No shopping malls, neon lights, or fast food restaurants on the corner. Escobares is cut by a single road, US 83. Everything that works is there. A gas station, a grocery store, a food trailer. Once you leave the road, it's dust, dirt roads, and simple houses. The climate is dry and extremely hot. When it rains very little, and when it comes, it floods. High above, there is almost always a border patrol helicopter circling, or a surveillance balloon hovering in the sky, just to remind you that every step you take is being watched. Number 2. History. To understand how Escobares became what it is today, we need to go back in time. The history of this place begins long before it was officially called a city. In the 18th century, when the region was still under Spanish rule, the colonial government began distributing land along the Rio Grande, the same river that today separates the United States from Mexico. One of these plots went to the Escobar family, and it was this name that ended up giving rise to the city. At the time, there was nothing there but a collection of ranches, small plantations, and families living in isolation. Then came the big changes: Mexico's independence, the war with the United States, and in 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. From one day to the next, that land ceased to be Mexican and became American. But in practice, the same residents, the same houses, only the flag changed. While neighboring Roma grew, gained commerce, infrastructure, and became a real city, Escobares remained forgotten. It had no city hall, no official recognition. For decades, it was just a statistical area in the census, a name on the map with no municipal status. It was not until 2005 that the turnaround happened. With the risk of being annexed by Roma, the residents decided to found their own municipality. They drew the boundaries, voted, and elected Noel Escobar as mayor, a name that was already strong in the region. With that came the first basic services: garbage trucks, local policing, and funds for infrastructure. It wasn't a radical transformation, but it was the first official step for this community that had lived for centuries in the shadows. A city that has existed for centuries, but is officially younger than many people watching this video, and which, even today, faces difficulties in staying afloat. Number 3. Economic indicators. When you look at the numbers for this city, it becomes clear. Poverty is not a detail of the landscape. It is the landscape. Among all municipalities of this size in the United States, this place has been at the top of the ranking of worst economic indicators for years. And the most striking data is income. A family here lives on an average of $32,000 a year. That may seem reasonable, but not by American standards. In Texas, the average income is $75,000 a year. In the United States as a whole, it exceeds $80,000. People living in Escobares earn less than half that. Almost half the population, 47%, lives below the poverty line. This is extremely high compared to the national average, which is around 12%. And believe it or not, these figures have improved. At certain points in recent history, this rate exceeded 60%. However, despite small improvements, the city remains a symbol of American inequality. The GDP per capita also reflects this harsh reality. In the early 2000s, it was less than $6,000 per inhabitant. Today, it is close to $17,000, but still well below the national average. This has a direct impact on property values. While in the rest of Texas, the average house costs $300,000. In Escobares, you can find properties for $50,000, the equivalent of a used car in other regions. The city's public revenue is minimal. Few people pay taxes because almost no one owns valuable property. Unemployment hovers around 15%, and among those employed, many are in informal jobs or underemployed with low wages. Behind each of these numbers are real people, families who have to live on much less than the richest country in the world promises. Number 4. Population. Looking from the outside, you could almost forget that you're in the United States. The vast majority of the local population, more than 98%, is Latino with Mexican roots. This means that Spanish is not only common, it's the everyday language. On the streets, in homes, in churches, in stores. Everything happens in 2 languages, but the heart beats in Spanish. Many people there are bilingual. They speak Spanish at home and English at school or work. But there are also those who only speak Spanish, even though they are American citizens. This is especially true for older people who had little education or grew up at a time when English was not required in everyday life. And it's not just the language that shows this connection to Mexico. The customs, the festivals, the faith, everything reminds you of the culture on the other side of the river. There are images of the Virgin of Guadalupe on the walls, large families gathered on Sundays, baptisms celebrated in the backyard. Neighbors are often cousins, uncles, compadres. It's a tight network of strong ties. The community is young. The average age is around 30. The houses are full, 4, 5 people, sometimes 3 generations under the same roof. Children play in the yard, grandmothers cook beans on the stove, and fathers return from work, tired but present. Many residents have been there for generations, since before the border existed. Others arrived more recently, fleeing violence or lack of opportunities in Mexico. Some are documented, some are naturalized, and some live informally. But all have found a place to start over. It is an American place on paper, but deeply Mexican in spirit. Number 5. Infrastructure. From the outside, Escobares may not look like a scene of extreme poverty. There are no chaotic slums or hundreds of homeless people scattered about, as seen in the run-down neighborhoods of large cities. But just venture into its side streets to see the poor housing and infrastructure. Most of the houses are old trailers or simple block buildings, many already well worn, with broken windows covered with plastic and makeshift roofs. These mobile homes, known as trailers, are common there. Prefabricated, small, and almost always showing signs of age, rust, patched wood, and tarps hanging where walls should be. All around are car wrecks, old appliances, and sometimes even accumulated trash. Not because of neglect, but because there is a real lack of infrastructure. Since the city was officially created in 2005, some improvements have been made. Streets have been paved with help from the federal government, garbage collection now covers the entire city, and almost all houses have running water and connection to the sewage system. This, incidentally, is considered a huge achievement there. But there is still a long way to go. Street lighting is poor, sidewalks are almost non-existent, and those without cars have to walk on the side of the road, sharing space with vehicles. There is no public transportation, no hospital, no park. The city hall operates out of a converted trailer. Next to it are the city's only garbage truck and fire truck, often operated by volunteers. The eastern zone has areas so isolated that they look more like no man's land. Distant houses, tall grass, no shops nearby. On the other side of the road there is a little more movement, but still far from what one would expect from a city. Deep down, it all still looks like a rural neighborhood, slowly trying to become a real city. Number 6. Education and public services. Education and health are the foundation of any place. In Escobares, they exist, but they function at a minimum. The city does not have its own school. Children study in Roma, right next door. The journey is not long, but it is tiring. It is a daily effort that could be avoided if there were facilities nearby. High school is also outside the city. Within the city, almost nothing happens in this regard. This void leaves its mark. Many people grew up without finishing their studies. In fact, less than half of the population has completed high school. And college? That's a distant dream. Less than 5% have ever enrolled in college. Not because they don't want to, but because life got in the way. Some started working early, took care of their siblings, or simply never had the chance. Today, there are even programs to try to make up for lost time, literacy courses, English classes, adult education. But few people are able to participate. Sometimes they lack time or motivation, or they are too tired. The daily routine is already hard enough. In schools in the region, teachers do what they can, but the context is difficult. Some students arrive hungry, having slept poorly because they share a room with 5 people. Some children only speak Spanish at home and have to work hard to understand the English spoken in class. There are bilingual programs, assistant teachers, and some support. But even so, performance remains below expectations. In health, the situation is even more precarious. There is no hospital, no clinic, no regular doctor. When someone gets sick, they have to be taken out of town. The ambulance comes from another city, and sometimes it takes a long time. Policing is minimal, 5 officers for everything. And there is a fire truck, but it is operated by volunteers, as we mentioned before. Much of the support comes from outside: food stamps, public health insurance, church donations. A patch here, a patch there. It's the bare minimum. And yet, there are those who remain steadfast, believing that things can get better. Number 7. Ways of making a living. Making a living in Escobares is not easy. There are no factories, no industry, no large businesses, and none of those huge plantations that usually drive the Texas countryside. What you have here is hard work and a lot of improvisation. The city revolves around a single major road, the US 83 highway. As we said at the beginning of the video, this is where almost all the jobs are concentrated. a neighborhood grocery store, a gas station, a repair shop, a small diner. Most of these places are family-run, with one or two people running everything. And when they need help, they call a relative or a neighbor. The rest is odd jobs. Some people sell food on the sidewalk in front of their homes. Others clean houses, babysit, repair gates, or paint walls. It is informal work that keeps many households functioning. But the truth is that most of the money that circulates here comes from outside the town. Many people have to leave every day to work in nearby cities, and some go even further. Workers who travel hours to western Texas to work on construction sites, power plants, or oil pipelines. They stay away for months, send their wages to their families, and return when they can. Those who cannot leave to work elsewhere depend on social programs, food stamps, retirement, public health care. In many homes, that is what keeps them going. Food stamps help put basic items on the table. The government's dream is to attract a large company to the city, something that will generate real jobs. But so far, nothing. Escobares is small, remote, and too close to the border. For many investors, that's a turnoff. Number 8. Daily life. Even with all the limitations, life goes on. Those who live here have their own rhythm, unhurried, but also uninterrupted. There is a routine, a neighborhood, the smell of food in the air. And the soundtrack comes from the houses, loud music, whether it's ranchao, norteña, or just that old radio playing all day long. Mornings start early. Even before the sun rises, people are already leaving for work. Mothers get their children ready for school, the little ones get on the yellow bus, and those who have small shops open their doors. Those who stay behind take care of the house, the yard, or the neighbor. Around here, it's common for people to help each other. One watches the other's children, the other cooks and shares. The community supports each other as best it can. On special dates, everyone gets together to celebrate, even when money is tight. In December, for example, the streets are filled with candles and singing in honor of the Virgin of Guadalupe. It's simple but moving. And since there is no church in the neighborhood, people go in a caravan to the nearest parish. On weekends, those who have documents cross the border to visit relatives in Mexico, do some shopping, and return full of stories. Because that's what living here is like, being between two worlds, with your heart on one side and your feet on the other. Ultimately, this piece of land lives at a crossroads. It's not quite Mexico, it's not quite the American dream. It's a border territory where people try to move forward. And that's it for today. Now we want to hear from you. Had you heard of this city before? Comment below and let us know what you thought of this story. And of course, if you liked the video, leave a like, share it with someone who will be surprised by it, and subscribe here at Bello Mundo. Here, we usually show a piece of the world that few people see. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time.